In this video, I'm going to share all the steps I took to upgrade my RV refrigerator's cooling system with a better, much more powerful cooling system. If you have an old fridge that's not getting as cold as you'd like, or if you just want to keep your ice cream rock hard, and for a fraction of the cost of buying a new one, stay tuned. I'm Jesse, and you're watching Outside is Calling.
Intro video.
Alright, so here we are at day 2. I went ahead last night and it was getting late. We didn't have to have the fridge done, so we stopped so that way today we can do it slowly, record this video, and show you all the parts and pieces that go into reassembling the fridge before putting it back into its spot. So one thing to point out is that overnight we left the fridge upright. Right now that's allowing all of the coolant that's inside of the new cooling unit to go back down into the bottom. So it's very important to let all of that drain down with gravity. So today we'll be reinstalling a few of the parts on the back of the fridge we took off yesterday. I'll need to screw the circuit board in, the water maker. After we do that, we're going to put the fridge back into its spot in the RV over here, and I have an idea. The fridge is actually up about 12 inches off the ground, and these things are pretty heavy. So I've sent my wife Jenny off to get some parts for me, and I have an idea that will make this substantially easier to install than it was taking out, because when we took it out we had our hands full, and I don't want to damage any of these new components. So I have a trick I'm going to try to get the fridge up and elevated without having to break our backs. So let's jump onto the back side of the fridge and we'll start putting things back together. Okay, so here's a good look at the circuit board on our fridge. However, keep in mind that many of these fridges have different types of circuit boards. The folks at Dutch Aire will send you a schematic showing you what contacts you'll use for which parts and pieces of your unit. They did tell me that if the schematic doesn't match mine, just to give them a call, and that they can send me more information to make sure I land all these connections in the right spot. The new cooling unit goes right here, which is kind of where this used to be, which is why I had to pull this off. So now I'm going to use the self-tapping screws. I'm just going to move it over a little bit and reattach it over here, and then I'll also self-tap screw the ice maker water line over here as well. After getting the circuit board mounted in its new location, this is also a good chance to replace the fuse that was provided with the new kit. With the circuit board installed, I can now position the ice maker valve, remembering to reuse the 2 plastic spacers. Reconnect the 2 wires that go to the ice maker valve. And then reinstall the circuit board cover. Reconnect the ice maker water line to the valve. Reinstall the defrost catch pan. So now I have the wiring harness that came from Dutch Aire with the new cooling unit. There are 2 red and black pairs. Your circuit board may look different than this one, but essentially using the wiring diagram that was provided from Dutch Aire, I land 1 pair over here on the left and 1 pair over to the right. Keep in mind, this circuit board used to be powered with 120 volt AC power, and this wiring harness is part of the process of converting this into a 12 volt powered system. I had to pop the cover back off because the 2 compressor wires are landed right here as shown. Now working on the fan switch, I removed the old fan switch wiring, place it to the side, and then reuse the white wire, which goes to the new fan switch, and then the black wire connects to the black fan wiring. I couldn't tell if the defrost hose was sealed well, so I gave it another small shot of spray foam. One of the last things I do is I go around the fridge and clean things up, mostly by using these black zip ties to organize some of the hoses and wiring, and just to keep things nice and clean. And here's a nice little look at the back of the fridge after the install is complete. The new cooling unit is now installed. All the circuit board and ice maker have been moved over. The compressor is connected, and all the wires are cleaned up, and everything is looking good. And so once again, we'll use the rug below the fridge as a way to help slide it around without scratching anything, and to make sliding it around pretty easy. You can see here it just wiggles back and forth. Okay, so here's my plan. I've removed the rug, and I've got these sheets of plywood that fit in between this narrow space. Jenny's got the fridge held back while I place the plywood down. So my plan is to use an automotive style jack, which I can now lift the fridge as much or as little as I need to. That will allow us to easily slide the unit back into its place. This definitely is a two-person deal. Jenny's holding the fridge upright and stable while I jack the fridge up here. Definitely couldn't do this without a second person, so if you do this method, you'll definitely want to have some help. But we found it to be actually very, very easy compared to how we took the fridge out. You can see here I'm lifting up just to the proper height. With the wheels, we can then scooch it over left or right, and then it's just a matter of sliding it back to get it onto the lip of the cabinet. Our refrigerator compartment was such a precise fit, we had to get the fridge perfectly aligned front to back, and then we were able to slide it straight in. We weren't sure this was going to work, so we were super happy that this actually was a successful way to get the fridge in. You can see we didn't put it in all the way just yet though. We got it in where it's stable and not going to fall out. And my plan is to go outside and make connections and just verify that everything is going to work before we completely install the fridge all the way. That's just in case we need to pull it back out and make any changes. Okay, so I just changed out the fuse inside. Initially I had 0 volts across these DC power. This is 12 volt DC power coming off of our batteries. And let's see what we have now. We're now looking at 13.5 volts. So perfect. What happened, that 5 amp fuse inside popped. We now have a 15 amp fuse. So let's hook these up, see what happens here. Once this clicking finishes, it'll kick over and this compressor will kick on. If that new fuse will hold. Let's see. That's quiet. Right now it's running. Can you hear it, Jenny?
No, but I saw it wiggle.
Yeah, a little wiggling. So this unit is now running, and it's super quiet. I wonder if that's how quiet it always is going to be. She has a little bit of shake. But yeah, so the unit's online now, it's running, which means that our new 15 amp fuse is taking, or is big enough so far. So here, one of the first things I do is to pop off the display panel, and there's a little circuit board back here, and you gotta kind of pry it out. And once I pried out this display panel circuit board, I was able to access the alarm. So this round black device is the alarm for the fridge, and the instructions showed that when I pried it, it should pop a cover off. However, when I pried it, it actually broke the solder loose here. So I actually disabled the alarm totally, but I left it there in place in case I need to resolder that wire in the future. Then I put the board back in the display panel casing and reinstall the display panel. Okay, now it's time to go to work inside of the refrigerator. The first thing I need to do is take the thermistor. That's this little device here with the wire that's on the fins. The instructions say to count from right to left to fin number 22. When you get to fin 22, that is the new location of where this thermistor needs to be placed. Okay, next I'm installing the frost-free fin fan. Try saying that 3 times fast. The frost-free fin fan is installed on the right side of the fridge. The instructions do say, however, that if you find frost buildup somewhere else, you can move this around to wherever the frost is at. This helps move air across the fins, which will reduce the buildup of frost. The fin fan power wires are ran out through the defrost hose and outside to a 12-volt power source. Okay, so I talked with the folks at Dutch Aire and I did confirm that 15 amps is the proper size fuse they want to protect this system. Keep in mind that we had, when this was a 120 volt system, we had a 5 amp fuse in there, and now we're going up to 15 amps because we're now on a 12 volt system. I also found that it's better to just put the fridge into AC power mode. This Norcold 1200 has an automatic feature where it will automatically sense between propane versus shore power or 120 volt power, and it's best just to put the unit in AC mode, and by putting it into AC mode, it will just by default use the 12 volt power. Our wires were thick enough to use the existing wires, but here's a great chart you can use to verify and see if your wires are thick enough or if you need to go to a heavier gauge. All you have to do is determine the length of your wires to the battery, and the 15 amp column will tell you what gauge wire to use. And as you can see, this unit is very, very quiet. We're gonna go ahead and finish putting the fridge all the way in. We gotta finish pushing it in, and we'll bolt it into place or screw it in, and almost done. It's exciting. Now it's a matter of me getting my tools out of the way, and we will go ahead and finish installing the fridge. So now everything is pretty much a reverse from earlier. I screw the fridge screws back in. Each of the 4 trim pieces and end caps are reinstalled. To do these, you just slip it onto the channel. The end cap goes on first, and then the trim cover snaps into place. Back outside, I plug the LP gas line with the plug that is included in the kit. While we're here, I'm also going to test the propane line and make sure that the plug has sealed. There's no LP gas leaking out. I'm just going to check it and make sure there's no leaks. I've got some soapy water. All right, so our LP gas line is plugged and sealed off tight, no leaks. And so here's a little tip. If you need to pressurize your system while you're working on the fridge, this is a garden hose attachment. So any garden hose attachment will fit on the water line. As long as you can close that water line off, like you see we did here, I was able to pressurize the RV and use the water sources while the fridge was out of service. Here I'm reattaching the water hose to the ice maker valve. And right here I found a nice little spot to slip the old gas line into, out of the way where it's safe, it's not going to shake around and rattle, and it's out of the way. And here's one more look at the circuit board and the wiring configuration. So again, after letting the unit sit for 12 hours upright, you're ready to go. It's ready to turn on and begin cooling down. And don't forget that this unit will cool down much faster. You probably couldn't hear much in the video that I showed outside, but the new compressor is very, very quiet. It's definitely not audible inside the RV, and it's barely audible outside the RV next to the compartment. So it's a very quiet unit. Okay, so one thing I missed in the install, I've actually installed our fin fan wiring incorrectly. I'll show you. For our fin fans, I initially put the wires up to our light. All right, so the wires are on the light here. This circuit's not rated for enough power to power the fin fans. The other problem with this light only comes on when the doors are open. So when the doors are closed, the fin fan goes off. So what I have to do now is actually run the fin fan wiring out through our defrost drain tube out to a 12-volt source that is hot all the time. You can see there is a little bit of frost buildup too. That's because these fin fans aren't running just a few minutes a day. Okay, so here is the end of the power cable for the fin fans. I'm going to carefully route this out through the defroster drain hose, and then outside Jenny will be pulling this when it gets to her, and I'll be feeding it kind of together, working this down through the hose. So the final part of connecting the fin fan is to take the red wire. This is going to connect right here to our fan switch. It's going to go right here. This is going to go right onto there. So now that's there. And then the last part is to take a ground wire. This is a ground coming off of the coach ground, and take that to the black wire. Last thing I'll do for this is I'll take some zip ties. I'm going to clean this up over here, make it nice and neat, and that is now complete. There are a couple of cons, but I think the benefits far outweigh them. There will be a flashing code on the display panel. On our fridge, I think it flashes no AC, no FL. The control board's not seeing what it wants to see because it's looking for propane and for that 120 volts. This is now a 12-volt system, so it's not going to see those things. The other con is that there are no alarms. We've actually disabled the alarm, and so there's nothing the fridge can do to warn us of any problems. So, you know, if the fridge were to shut off, if the fridge is getting too hot, too cold. I found a temperature alarm kit, and you can put these, they're actually remote kits, so you can put the sensors in the freezer or the fridge or wherever you want, and you can set the alarm set points exactly how you want it. It will give you precise control over where you want your temperature alarms to alarm at for whether it's getting too cold or too hot. Like for example, in the fridge, you don't want it to get too cold and freeze, but you also don't want it to get too warm and, you know, allow stuff to grow in your food. These couple of cons are such small things compared to what a good system this is overall, and especially because of the cost savings. As I mentioned, this is about a third of the cost of buying a new fridge, and essentially the refrigerator box, everything on this Norcold 1200 is fine. It was just a cooling unit that was no longer effective. And as you saw, I was able to do all this work inside the RV, which meant I didn't have to pull the unit out of the RV, which would necessitate removing the RV windshield and a whole plethora of additional resources and work that would have to be done. So by keeping the work inside the RV, it made it much simpler, much more cost effective. As I mentioned, this is about a third of the cost of a new unit. And I think my personal favorite about this RV fridge upgrade is just the power supply. We're now using 12-volt DC power. A 12-volt system may not sound like a big deal at first until you start thinking about all the ways you can get 12-volt power. And, you know, as I mentioned, we have medicine we have to keep cold, so we have to have a cold fridge. This isn't a want, this is a necessity. And so for starters, we have a battery bank. We have 4 Battleborn lithium batteries. For each 100 amp hours, we have 400 amp hours of battery capacity, and that's enough to run this fridge for a very long time just on the batteries. But what's great, we also have solar panels. We have just under 1200 watts, I think 1160 watts of solar power coming in. And so, you know, if there's any, even on a cloudy day, we're bringing in power. So even though we might be using those batteries, with our solar panels, we're recharging those batteries. In addition to that, we also have a generator on boards, and so if we had to, we could always turn our RV generator on and use a charger to charge the batteries, which will again provide 12-volt power to the system. And then if that's not enough, on our RV engine, we have an alternator which also charges first our chassis batteries, and then it charges our house batteries. So essentially, we could turn on the RV and eventually charge the same batteries we're using to power this fridge. And then, if that's not enough, we have one more way, which is just to plug the RV into shore power. So there's so many different power sources we can use to obtain 12-volt power to run this fridge. So overall, this was a pretty complex DIY project. I'll include all the tools I used in this video in the links below in case you are looking to do this yourself. But saving over $2,000 and knowing we can keep our medicine cold and our ice cream colder was well worth the effort. If you'd like to see a funny video about our fridge, here's a video from Texas. We were on our way to Baja, Mexico, and the fridge just quit working at all. A huge thanks to Dutch Aire for sponsoring this video, and a huge thanks to you for watching. Please leave any questions and comments down below, and I will see you in the next video.